welcome back to my channel. My name is Kelsey and today we're going to read some arcs together. So before we end off the year, I do have a couple of arcs that came out in 2024. So like September, October, November vibes that I just didn't get a chance to, but I don't want to leave my NetGalley score like poor for the year. So I decided to just read the 4 that were remaining in a vlog for you all. I read a lot of arcs for this channel. If you don't know what an arc is, it's an advanced reader copy, and it's for some books that I find on NetGalley that I think are interesting and I like to keep my score up. So that's what we're gonna do today. So in this vlog, I read Air by Sabaa Tahir, When the World Tips Over by Jandy Nelson, Remember You Will Die by Eden Robbins, and Happy Head by Josh Silver. So if you would like a review for any of the books mentioned, you can continue watching, or if you just want to support me because you like me, you can continue watching. And let's get into the beginning of the video. Hello. So I wanted to talk about the first book I'm reading for this vlog, which is Air by Sabaa Tahir. Very excited to be reading this book. I'm already 21% in. This is a book that takes place 20 years after the events that followed the Ember in the Ashes series. I did finish the Ember in the Ashes series last year. Absolutely loved it. I really love Sabaa Tahir's writing. There's just something about it that keeps me loving it, even if it's YA and I'm not necessarily reading YA these days. But Air follows 3 individuals 20 years after the events of the Ember in the Ashes series. So we have Aiz, and she seems to be an orphan child and she has this need for vengeance, and where I'm at in the book so far, she had like a hot-headed mistake is what the synopsis calls it, and at this point she is currently serving some time in prison and telling tales and stories to the other orphan children that are in the prison. And we also have Saoirse, and Saoirse seems to be one of the only like magic holders in the story. From what I understand, her magic allows her to like trace or hunt people down, and she's able to find people very easily, and she's tasked by a client to track down a mass murderer in order to murder them. And then we also have Quill, and Quill so far has been my favorite character. I think because he is primarily the most closely related to the events of the Ember in the Ashes series, and he is Helene's from the Ember in the Ashes series nephew, and what he is kind of spoils the Ember in the Ashes series, so I'm going to try to be very delicate with Quill's storyline, but I am really enjoying it. And so far what we've discovered in the book is not that far from the synopsis. So even though we're at 20%, we're still really in the beginnings of what's going to happen into the book. After that little summary of where I'm at, loving the writing, obviously, because I love Sabaa Tahir. I like the plot. It hasn't obviously developed since the synopsis, so I don't really have much commentary on it. And then obviously I love the little like tie-ins to the past characters. They bring them up a lot, and that's something that I'm really enjoying. So I'm going to continue with that, and I will update you probably when I'm more at the like 50% mark or after. Section, I do spoil a little bit about Air by Sabaa Tahir just because I feel like I couldn't talk about the plot without really giving you like my predictions, and then it turns out that my predictions are correct. So just a little warning, I'll put when to skip to if you want. It's not like a huge thing, but if you're sensitive to spoilers, I would skip ahead. Hello, so what I'm going to do today, please ignore the mess. We're preparing for a baby, okay? I have to clean the other room, so I will be listening to Air by Sabaa Tahir. I think I'm around or further than the 50% mark. I don't really know, but I am still really enjoying it. It really reminds me of Ember in the Ashes series. Very similar, not just because the characters are prevalent in this series, like their kids are a part of it, but just because the writing feels so similar. Where we're at right now in the plot, Quill and Saoirse have met up and they're working together in order to find this mysterious like female murderer, and only Aiz's chapters are not related. And my prediction is that they are related in the negative sense, but right now the character of Aiz has nothing to indicate that she would be this murderer or this like horrible villain that they're looking for. And there's just something fishy about it. Something's definitely going to happen that leads her to be a murderer, because she would already be the murderer, but why is she being brought up separately? I don't know. There's something there. Unless she's just completely separate and meets up with the murderer and becomes a part of that crew. These are my predictions. So I'm going to clean the baby's room while listening to the audiobook for Air, and we'll come back probably when I'm done the book, I feel like. Okay, something was revealed. Very interesting. I'm intrigued. So before I have to leave to go to my friend's house today, I wanted to do a quick little review of Air by Sabaa Tahir because I did finish that yesterday when I was babysitting my sister's dog. I didn't really update you guys for no reason, just because I was tired and I forgot, honestly. Basically, my feelings haven't really changed from the start of the novel until now. I knew overall going into this book that I was going to enjoy it. I don't really think you can go wrong with a book from Sabaa Tahir, especially a fantasy YA novel that's like kind of her jam. Everything I expected from the book was there. We definitely had those well-developed characters that you end up really enjoying as you continue to read, just because she does such a good job at developing them. The interesting world building. Some of that, if I could criticize, comes from the Ember in the Ashes series. I think I was sort of dropped in knowing the history of the world, knowing kind of what was going on. So I don't know if the world building will affect you more if you haven't read the Ember in the Ashes series. And also the romantic leads. I really liked the romantic dynamic that was happening in this book and the like overall romance that will be, I think, further happening as the books go on. And the way that this book ended, that makes me excited for the romantic dynamic. Like I said, while this is a spin-off of the Ember in the Ashes series, I do believe you could read it without reading that quartet. I feel like you're obviously going to be missing like some key moments for Easter eggs and like maybe some backstory stuff, especially for like the character of Quill, who is Helen's nephew. I don't think it's that big of a deal because obviously like if you don't care about the last characters, like it doesn't matter to you, but it is something that would bother me if I went into this book and I realized that there was a whole entire series that I haven't read and like I'm missing like these little fun Easter eggs and jokes. And while I did enjoy the overall reading experience, I clocked a twist pretty early on, and then I also found that the twist was revealed really early on in the book, and then that made it sort of kill the book's overall main plot because the two are really intertwined. And then without diving into spoilers, I also really did not like the character that this main twist involved. I just really did enjoy them, but despite that, I will definitely be continuing the series. I think there's a really interesting dynamic that's going to be at play based on how the novel ended. And I just think that any fan of Sabaa Tahir is going to like this. So I give this a 3.5 stars. Definitely better than like an average YA fantasy, but that twist sort of killed it for me. The next arc I'm going to read, sorry that I'm like jumping in right away, but I just have to finish this before I leave. Sorry, the fridge went on. If you can hear that, my apologies, it's really annoying. But the next arc I'm going to read, just to give myself a break from fantasy, is going to be When the World Tips Over by Jandy Nelson. I read I'll Give You the Sun by Jandy Nelson, and I love that book. I gave it 5 stars. I read it so long ago, maybe 10 years ago, but it was a YA contemporary that I really enjoyed. When the World Tips Over is about this family called the Fall family, and the Fall kid's father mysteriously disappeared, which obviously like shattered the family into a bunch of different pieces. So what we're following is the sort of repercussions of that with the children. So we have Dizzy, who is 12 years old, and she really just loves to bake cakes and be a heroine in a romance novel. Very big dreamer vibes. Then we have Miles, who is 17. He's like the brainiac, the athlete, and he's sort of like all of that, but still feels lost. And then we have Winton, who is the oldest brother, and he seems to be like the most destructive. And then they end up meeting this like rainbow haired girl, very like Stargirl vibes. So I think I'm going to enjoy this, but I'm very weary of like this manic pixie dream girl type of trope. But we're going to see what Jandy Nelson does. Obviously, I really enjoyed the last release from her. I think I'm going to end up enjoying this one just because I really like her writing, but we'll see overall if this ends up hitting the way I'll Give You the Sun did. So that's it for this update. I'm going to listen to a bit more of this book before I go to my friend's house, and then I'm just gonna enjoy like some quality time with my besties, and then I'll probably come home and continue listening to this later tonight just because I have a doctor's appointment in the morning, so I don't really want to stay too late at my friend's house, especially being 8 months pregnant. I get tired very easily, so I will come update you probably around the 100 page mark. Hello.
Hello, so I'm about 25% of the way through When the World Tips Over by Jandy Nelson, and so far I'm enjoying it. In regards to the plot, we have just had all of the characters meet with the rainbow-haired girl that I described at the beginning synopsis. They all meet her in ways that she is meant to save them, essentially. So while I'm still very weary about this like manic pixie dream girl-esque vibe that this character is giving, we also get her backstory, and we learn that her name is Cassidy. We learn that she has like this tumultuous relationship with her mom, and the dichotomy between her relationship with her mom and the three Fall children's relationship with their mom is also very interesting. So right now in the book, one of the Fall siblings is in the hospital, and we're seeing them struggle with dealing with this sort of guilt and how they ended up in that way. And the mom finds out about Cassidy's role in saving both Dizzy and Winton. And I think that's all I'm going to mention in regards to the plot, because it is a contemporary, so it's not like there is the most like engaging of plots. And really this is, I think, going to be a character examination of all 5 of these characters. Definitely these relationships with the mothers is taking much more prevalent of a role in the book than I expected it to, which I'm really enjoying, obviously. So I'm going to continue. Jandy Nelson has a very like mystical, dreamlike writing, and it makes it easy to get into but also easy to get lost. Like before I started listening to it again today, I was kind of trying to remember where I was in the book. Once you start reading it again, you immediately fall back in, but it's very easy to forget or get lost in her writing style, just because it's so lyrical and like fairy like. Anyways, yeah, I'm going to continue until my boyfriend gets home. Then I'm going to make some pasta with meat, and we'll take it from there.
Hello, I wanted to do a quick summary because I have about 25% of When the World Tips Over by Jandy Nelson left, and I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying it as much as I think I would enjoy any sort of YA contemporary magical realism type of book. Where we're at right now, we're seeing how all of the families that have been discussed throughout the book come together and why they have such a connection. That aspect I'm really enjoying, because if you've been following my channel for a little bit, I love family sagas. I love when the families are related or intertwined and they have like histories, generations and generations of people intertwined with one another. Where we're at the book though, I don't exactly like how Cassidy, which is this rainbow-haired, less of a manic pixie dream girl than I thought. I realized, like, yes, the Fall siblings are obsessed with her, but she's not necessarily doing anything to warrant this manic dreamlike idea that I put on her. Cassidy's background is very interesting. Her relationship with her mother, her relationship with growing up in an RV, and how her mother saw the world and thus raised Cassidy is very interesting. In the Fall siblings perspective, we're just getting repeated instances of their obsession with others and the other people around them, which works and both doesn't work, because this book feels less about their story now and more about Cassidy's story. I'm struggling with how much Cassidy is involved in the backgrounds of the Fall siblings and the generations of their families. I don't want to get too much into spoilers, which is why it sounds really weird as I'm like discussing it. But yeah, it's taken me a long time to get into this book, and I think that that's why. Just because I feel like there's this overwhelming need to explain Cassidy and the relationship with the Fall siblings that isn't really doing much for me. The writing's beautiful. I like the overall story, but I don't think that this, if you're gonna ask me if this is gonna be a 5-star, like, no. So I think I'm going to finish the last 25%, and then I can get started in the 3rd book. This video might come a little late, but I really do want to read one more arc before I close out this vlog. Hello, so I wanted to review When the World Tips Over by Jandy Nelson because I did finish it today, and I don't think my feelings necessarily changed from when I started reading the book to now. So did I give Miss Jandy Nelson a 3.5 stars? I did. I think it's just simply because it did not hit in the way that I was expecting it to hit. Point final, I was expecting a 5-star book and it wasn't that, and I should have probably tapered my expectations, especially because I haven't really been into YA for a long time and YA writing. That isn't to say that 3.5 stars isn't a good rating. I'm tired of people thinking it's not a good rating. It is, but I definitely had some issues with the reading experience. While I still adored Nelson's writing, just like I did in I'll Give You the Sun, I feel like this one, in regards to like just the plot and the story, did not hit as much. The novel had those family saga aspects that I absolutely love in books. It will always be a buzzword for me. And make no mistake, I really do think it was weaved into the plot really well here. And I loved learning about the Fall's overall family history. The way that it's sort of a like Cain and Abel retelling, and how the curse gets embedded into the family and how it ends was like really lovely to read. But I also think that this is where my main critique lies, and I think I talked about it in my last update. But the telling of the Fall family history comes from the main character of the book, which is Cassidy, and then it's her telling of the events. And while her backstory is interesting, it comes in the middle of the novel, which feels like out of nowhere, and then it doesn't really have a place overall until the end of the book. And it's sort of like explained in a way, not to get too much into spoilers, but like it has like a weird like incest connotation and I didn't know how to feel about that. I was like, okay. I still think it's a worthwhile read because it did make me cry. It is Jandy Nelson, so you know the writing is beautiful and it does really have those emotional hitting moments, but I just could not get over the overall like pacing to fully immerse myself into the novel. So 3.5 stars. And now before I start cooking, I did start Remember You Will Die by Eden Robbins. Yes, Eden Robbins. So this book seems to be like a sort of puzzle. It's told through mainly news articles in a way, and like the bulk of it are newspaper obituaries. And it's sort of going back and forth in time, so really into our future, into our present kind of thing. And it's a genre-bending epic about the messy tapestry of human history and the threads that connect us, told through the eyes of Peregrine, an AI mother grappling with the unexpected death of her human daughter, Poppy. And from the newspaper clippings of individual lives emerges something unexpected. Generations entwined through blood and art and the consequences of their actions. Spanning continents, centuries, planets, and genres, Remember You Will Die is a provocative exploration of who we are and what we could be. So it sounds really amazing. My experience so far, I'm 20% in, is that it's really confusing. I want to believe that by the end of the book, everything will be explained. We will have some sort of understanding of the selected obituaries, why they're being chosen. In a way, this sounds like a book I would love, but so far the execution has just been mediocre at best. Really, like confusing really is the best way I could say it, but I want to believe in it.
Honey, you've got a big storm coming.
Because the premise just sounds absolutely fantastic. So I'm going to get back into it. This isn't a book I think I can listen to on audio and just like not think. Like it's definitely a book that I have to continue to pay attention to. So I will do that and see you later. Hello. So I haven't updated in a couple of days, and that's mostly because I just made my way through Remember You Will Die and had nothing really to say. I just sort of listened to it, read it, and that's why we're here right now. I give this 2.5 stars. I think what really shines with this novel is the premise, because I think unfortunately it was just so much better than this book's execution. I love the idea from the premise, which was exploring this mother-daughter relationship between an AI and a human daughter, all told through this like epistolary format of obituaries and news articles. The epistolary format is arguably like one of my favorite ways to tell a story, and they are all interconnected, yes, but they did not, at least in my opinion, refer back to Poppy and Peregrine enough, which was what I was mainly here for, and I think a lot of readers are mainly here for. The obituaries did do a good job of like looking at humanity over a century of time, but again, I really felt like we were missing just a solid thread to explain why we were reading this book. Maybe there's like this larger convoluted plot that I'm just too dumb to like even think about, but I just found myself meh whenever I had to pick it up, so I just sped my way through this. I didn't care about it. 2.5 stars, and I was going to end here, but I do have one more arc left that I had to read in the month of October, and given that we're the end of November, I should just round it up. So I think I'm going to now start Happy Head, and this is by Josh Silver. So I picked this up because this is like a YA dystopia, and I tend to enjoy YA dystopias as like candy, but this one has received like quite a bit of praise, and it really reminds me of Adam Silvera's More Happy Than Not, which was a YA dystopian that I did really enjoy. So I'm hoping that this gives similar vibes. This takes place in a world where we are in an epidemic of unhappiness. Good news, Happy Head has the answer. When Seb is offered a place on a radical retreat designed to solve the national crisis of teenage unhappiness, he is determined to change how people see him and make his parents proud. But as he finds himself drawn to the enigmatic Finn, Seb starts to question the true nature of the challenges they must undergo. The deeper into the program the boys get, the more disturbing the assessments become, until it is clear that there is no escape. Sounds like an interesting time. It's also marked as like a thriller along with a dystopia. So I think that this could be a really chill listen. So I'm going to start that. Well, I did listen to like one chapter yesterday, but I'm going to continue reading it for now while I wait for my boyfriend to come home from hockey. And I'll probably update you when I'm at like the 100 page mark, just so we can get the vibe of how I'm feeling. So I wanted to give a quick update on where I'm at in Happy Head. I've read about 40-ish% of the book and we are currently in the camp. Things are like a little suspicious. Obviously our main character is there for a reason. He struggles with like being himself or being confident in his decisions, and so that's why his parents have sent him there, because he's part of the epidemic of teenagers that feel like they need to do this. When he's a part of the camp, they also put them in groups, and so in his group he has this like mysterious bad boy named Finn, and Finn seems to not trust the program, and he believes that they are stuck there, that they can't escape, and that they are being sort of fooled into staying within these grounds. And our main character Seb, he sort of believes him and sort of doesn't. Like, I think Seb really wants to believe in the program, and he's like there because his parents want him to improve, and because he lacks confidence within himself, he just wants to please other people and he wants to be successful in this camp. And Finn is sort of like holding him back, you know? So that's where I'm at right now. I'll probably read another 40-ish%, maybe at like 70 something percent. I'll come back and talk to you before we get to the end of the book. I don't see this being more than a 5-star unless it's like really groundbreaking and wild in the next few chapters. So we'll see. Hello, so I am in fact updating you from bed again. I'm about to start another book for another vlog, just because this vlog is sort of a dunce, just because the arcs that I had to read, I've obviously been putting them off since September and October for a reason. When I first requested them, they sounded really interesting, and then over time, like, I just need to stop like pulling the trigger when I request things. I see like a bright cover, I see like an interesting synopsis, and I'm like, ooh yeah, but I don't actually like take the time to like really dive into what I like about books. Like, obviously Air by Sabaty here was going to be one I was going to request regardless. The other ones, like, why did I do that? Anyways, Happy Head, I have about 35% left in the book. It's exactly the type of dystopian you would expect it to be. A bunch of kids are sent to a camp. The camp is not what it seems, and they're sort of being rewarded for playing into like heteronormative ideologies. Like, that's interesting, I guess. And we just got to the point now where there's like a developing friendship between our two main characters, Seb and Finn, and so like I'm liking that aspect. But yeah, it's like, I know it's not getting more than a 3 stars, but because I only have like roughly an hour at 3 times speed left in the audiobook, I'm just gonna listen to it and come back with some sort of wrap up tomorrow. Yeah, I'm sorry this vlog is so boring, and I hope you forgive me. Okay, bye. Hello, welcome to the end of the vlog, and let's give my final thoughts for Happy Head by Josh Silver, which I think you can kind of guess how I felt. So this was a really interesting concept. Like I mentioned, it really reminded me of More Happy Than Not by Adam Silvera, and I was really like initially very intrigued to read this, especially because I saw it was getting awards and it was like pretty highly reviewed. So overall, I really liked the dystopian feeling of the novel. It takes place in our contemporary world, but it still sort of feels realistic. And I think that that helped Silver have a really interesting, like, included topics in this one. The main issue that I had is that I just wish that a lot of these realistic and like tangible consequences and issues would have been more developed. I feel like the main issue of the book, which is this like epidemic of unhappiness in the youth, could have really used some more development. Maybe he could have taken some time at the beginning of the novel to explain why this was an issue that needed to be so heavily fixed, especially with a sort of dystopian program. And I feel like, would he have done that, the more extreme measures that were taken at the Happy Head camp would have just made more sense to me. Like, why was everyone obsessed with being so happy? Like, I get it, like, you know, objectively we want everybody to be happy, but like, why was it so important that like they had to go to this camp and like face these consequences? If you enjoy contemporary settings, I do think that this one will probably be for you if you're like dipping your toes into dystopia. I feel like I just needed more of a scientific or like futuristic reasoning for why the events unfolded the way they did, and so I gave this a solid 3 stars. Not the best, not the worst. So let's go over my ratings for this one. Unfortunately, this was I would consider a really unsuccessful vlog. I didn't rate anything above like a 3.5 stars. And so it makes sense for why this vlog took so long. Like I just wasn't really engaged with what I was reading. So the best book I read this vlog was Air by Sabaa Tahir. I expected this. I love Sabaa Tahir. I love her writing. I think this was just a solid beginning novel and I could really see the series developing from here and me really enjoying it. Then we read When the World Tips Over by Jandy Nelson, which I also gave a 3.5 stars. I enjoyed it. I think it could have been a little bit more developed, or the synopsis could have curved my expectations a bit better, but overall was enjoyable, as all of Jandy Nelson's books tend to be. Remember You Will Die, the failure of this vlog, 2.5 stars. I really didn't enjoy this one. And then we ended pretty averagely with Happy Head by Josh Silver, which I gave a 3 stars. So that's it. Please let me know down below if you've read any of these books or if you want to read any of these books. Chat with me about how you're feeling, how you felt. If you would like to follow me on any of my other social medias, I do leave a link down below to my Twitter, Goodreads, and Instagram if you would like to follow me there. And of course, because it is the end of the video, please do not forget to like, subscribe, and ring the notification bell. It does wonders for my channel, makes me feel really good. And that's it. I never know how to end these things, so I will see you next time. Okay, bye!